It's been a while since I've taken a look at a Powkiddy product. It's not a knock against the brand, it's just they haven't really done anything lately to really differentiate themselves from others in the space. Well, that might change today, because I'm going to be taking a look at a retro emulation handheld that, on paper, has enough bells and whistles that it could potentially stand on its own two legs against some of the other major players currently in the market. It's an open source emulation handheld that sports this really unique 4-inch IPS display. But how well does it actually perform? Let's open this thing up and take a closer look. Inside the box, you have the 20SX itself, a USB Type-C cable for charging and data transfer, a basic set of instructions, and these two decals that you can use to slap over the face of the handheld if you wanted to. Looking at the handheld itself, you have 4 face buttons, a decent sized directional pad. You have 2 analog sticks that are very similar to the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons. You have a start, select, and FN button, as well as a front-facing speaker. Over on the one side, you have a volume rocker and a micro SD card slot used for the handheld's operating system. On the other side, you have the power button, a reset button, and a second SD card slot that's used for loading the games. On the bottom, you have the 3.5mm headphone jack and 2 USB Type-C ports. One is used for power and the other is an OTG port, allowing you to connect an external gamepad or arcade stick. Topside, you have HDMI output, allowing you to use this thing in a type of console mode. Over on its backside, you have 4 shoulder buttons, all of which are nice, clicky, and surprisingly comfortable when in use. The face buttons and D-pad feel of really good quality. The analog sticks, I would say, are fair quality. They're definitely not the best, but far from the worst. They do have L3 and R3, but they have that knockoff Joy-Con feel that just screams, I might drift in the future. The form factor and ergonomics are what we've come to expect from most retro emulation handhelds for, I would say, about the past 2 years. It's a tried and true design, functional yet comfortable, and it works really well in this case. Under the hood, it's rocking that RK3566 chipset. This chipset can comfortably emulate up to PS1, but you can actually push it to about Dreamcast and PSP, but you will encounter issues. More on that as the video goes on. Comes with 1GB of DDR4 RAM, a 5000 mAh battery that can give you between 6 and 8 hours depending on what you're playing. It's got that very unique and gorgeous 4-inch IPS display resoluting at 720 by 720. And it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth capabilities, making it all the more ideal to be used in that console mode we talked about. Now, in case you guys are wondering, yes, this is the exact same screen and chipset that were present in the RGB20, but I did not like the form factor of that handheld, so I didn't even bother checking it out. It comes in a variety of different colors and configurations, with the high-end one coming with about 20,000 games pre-installed. The user interface is pretty clean, organized, and easy to navigate. And as I previously stated, this chipset can be pushed to PSP, but performance will vary. While some of the less resource-demanding games seem to run fine, others are going to really struggle. For instance, while trying to play God of War, the entire sky was black, there were multiple artifacts on screen, and the game slowed down at various points. I've seen something very similar with another handheld in the past. I'm not sure if this is a modified ROM that they use for low-spec devices, but it's definitely not the best way to play this game. Playing Vice City Stories was a much more smooth experience, but there were stutter points when a lot was happening on screen. I would say it's more or less playable, but once again, not the most ideal way to play this game. As I'm sure you guys have already noticed, the PSP games don't utilize the screen. It kind of has the image in this widescreen letterbox format, which is kind of a bummer, because this screen is really the defining feature of this handheld, and it would have been nice to see every emulator fully utilize it. Dreamcast performed much better, but I will say that the resolution looks like it was scaled way down to accommodate for the more lower powered specs. Everything I tried was definitely playable, and I didn't seem to encounter any issues. N64 ran a lot better than I thought it would, and the variety of the game selection was actually pretty surprising. They had some real gems on here. Now, where I feel the real strength of this handheld lies is in its ability to really enhance the overall experience while playing some of the retro handheld emulators. For example, right here, I'm playing Nintendo DS, and the way it seamlessly blends the top and bottom screen really makes for a kick-ass experience, especially while playing games like Contra 4 here. But of course, with the tap of one of the shoulder buttons, you can make each of the individual screens drop into full screen mode, making this one of the best Nintendo DS emulation experiences I've had on one of these retro emulation handhelds. The only thing that would really put it over the top is if it had a touchscreen. Going back a little further, all the Game Boy Advance games, looked really bright, vibrant, and as good as I've ever seen them. And if you really want to take it back, this thing makes the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color games look amazing. Not only does it feel like I'm playing with a backlit screen, it really magnifies the image. So it feels like I'm actually playing with one of those old school screen magnifying glasses that they used to sell for the damn thing. Not to mention its outstanding arcade library and capabilities. This screen makes playing a lot of the real old school stuff really enjoyable. So the RGB20SX. Guys, I have to say, I really wish this thing was more powerful. I'm pretty disappointed that not every emulator takes advantage of this display, and I really feel like it doesn't do things much better than what we've already seen. Now, I will say while playing Nintendo DS or OG Game Boy / Game Boy Color, this is the best experience I've had with one of these retro emulation handhelds. And I'm sure there might be someone out there that's like, oh man, great, finally some clean and convenient Nintendo DS emulation. And that's fine, but that's not me. I understand that they were trying to keep it within the whole budget realm, but it would have been really nice to see this screen with a lot more power attached. Is this an outstanding and viable option if you're in the market for an entry-level budget retro emulation handheld? Yes, absolutely. But if you already have a retro emulation handheld and you're looking for something a little different, should you go run out and get this thing? I would say no, probably not. With a little bit more powerful chipset, this handheld would be an absolute must-have. But as it stands right now, it's another in the vast sea of decent entry-level retro emulation handhelds. If you guys are interested in the RG20SX, I will put links in the description below. Until next time, this is Ness, signing out.